Hey, I'm Rachel.
And I'm Amanda, and this is Beyond a Ballot.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Beyond a Ballot. I'm Rachel, and here is Amanda. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. It's been quite a week. It is, I don't even know what day it is because we had a long weekend in Canada. So it's the end of the week already.
I know. It's been a fast week.
Yeah.
But also, like, you've been in and out of a lot of stuff this week.
I have. I had a child in hospital. She's fine. So thank you all for your concern. But it was not fun dealing with the medical system in this country this week at all. I will give it to, parents that are there with children constantly. And I saw so many of them when we were there. And I'm just thinking of all of them because the 2 days that we were there were not easy and they were not fast. I will say that.
You spent hours and hours in
yeah,
wait room.
in a waiting room. I mean, everyone's trying their best. I get that, but they're just, you and I look at systems and policies so much that for me, standing in a waiting room with a sick child, I was like, there's got to be a better way. And I know so many people have tried to make it better, but we're still a long way away.
Here's the thing that I don't understand about ER wait times. Here's what I don't get. We know that it's going to be hours and hours, right?
Yeah.
We all know.
Yeah.
Why can we not in 2024 check in and be texted when your time is coming up? Like, we are more technologically advanced than having people wait in wait rooms for hours on end. We all know as moms, sick children, the last thing they want to be in their beds. They want to be on the couch with you. They want to be in your arms. They do not want to be stuck in a chair in the wait room. Why can't we fix that part? I mean, I get that, maybe people come from all over and maybe but we basically check in to so many things now using the technology that we have available to us. Why can't we streamline wait rooms?
That for me has been the question top of mind for the last couple of days. Why can't we do this better in 20? I mean, we can create everything with AI now. We can't figure out how to make these wait times better. I think the problem is triage and just the way that they triage people and who takes priority, and people would get upset. I don't know. But my biggest question is, why can we not have a better system than sitting in a room full of germs for hours with your kids?
Exactly.
Like, that's
like,
costing
go
the healthcare
back
system.
out into the world and we will text you.
Right.
We will text you when it's within a half an hour of you needing to be in the room.
Or like some great ventilation system in that waiting room.
Or something.
I'm pretty sure I'm just sick from sitting there.
Definitely. You are.
Oh God, but I'm not sitting in another emergency room for a long time. Hopefully, knock on wood. The struggles of our healthcare system.
So many.
But this week, aside from what was going on in my life, the House of Commons was back in action in Ottawa, which is our favorite to watch. And a couple of big headlines, namely, I would say, the Greg Fergus story. So for those that don't know, Greg Fergus is the Speaker of the House of Commons, which is a nonpartisan role that he's taken on. He was elected as a Liberal originally. And the Liberal Party of Canada put out an invitation for an event with him that had some partisan language in it. They had a name. They called Pierre Poilievre a name. I can't remember what it is. And so the Conservatives came back in the House and asked for his resignation along with the Bloc Québécois. But this is, we've seen this before with Greg Fergus, where he had made a video for a Liberal partisan event and there was calls for his resignation. And we had a speaker resign already in the last year. The question that came out is, should he resign? This is the second kind of partisan issue we've seen from Greg Fergus. Last time we talked about the systems being better as kind of our theme right now in this conversation. But what is it going to take for them to recognize that partisan politics has no place in the speaker's office.
Oh my God. But come on now. Come on. I'm going to read actually what the line was. The line was accusing Pierre Poilievre of pursuing conservative policies that would risk our health, safety, and pocketbooks. Like, I mean, that's just fact though. Is it really inflammatory? That's what I thought was fun. And listen, here's the thing. For anyone who's listening who's like not paying close attention to the House of Commons, what ends up happening in question period in particular, and what the parties try to do, all parties, nobody is exempt from this, is whenever you get a chance to attack and or call for someone's resignation, they're all over that, right? Like all over it.
Oh, yeah.
So this is not new stuff. And while I agree that the speaker needs to be careful about being nonpartisan, this was an ad put out by the party. The party had to apologize. They withdrew the invitation. They apologized to both Greg Fergus as well as anyone who had read the invitation. They apologized. But what I thought was really funny was the conservatives. They were so upset with the quote unquote inflammatory language. This after weeks and weeks of calling the prime minister and Liberal Party policies wacko, among other radical, among other terms. Like they are,
but aren't they wacko and radical? No,
of like inflammatory language. Yeah. Anyways, it was pretty fun.
Yeah, it's one of those stories where it's like, okay, this is a headline maker, but it's also kind of goes down to, these questions about democracy and how we function as a House of Commons. I don't think Greg Fergus is resigning anytime soon, especially over this. But definitely, how many strikes do you get in baseball? 3?
You get 3.
We love the sport analogies.
We
3.
should never use them.
Never. Yeah, but we always
do occasionally.
3 strikes. Okay, I'll give him 2 here.
Okay,
we'll watch for one more.
All right.
Speaking of strikes, you want a strikeout? Strike. It was a big strikeout.
It was a big strikeout. So what happened? Let's leave domestic politics. We'll go to international politics. Rishi Sunak, who is the prime minister of Britain, and he called an election for the summer. But the really crazy part about this election, about this call, this press conference, was that he held it in the pouring rain, which was just honestly, it was pouring on him. You have to listen if you're listening right now, just to kind of understand the optics of this thing. He's outside Downing Street gates. The rain is pouring down and music is blasting. And what blasts? The song Things Can Only Get Better, which is like, it's an old song from the 1990s.
Yeah, like a political song.
Rachel. But it's a political song, but also Things Can Only Get Better.
I know. It was an absolute disaster. And let me tell you, as somebody that's worked on a billion campaigns, I would never have a candidate in that position because there's always plan A, plan B, plan C. And weather, I mean, they're in England. We're in Canada. We both have wild weather. They should have really thought to at least open an app, don't you think? Like,
I mean,
Google Weather could have told you. To their credit, I will give them this. It was not raining when he started the press conference.
Okay, but fair.
The other issue was he was wearing a really dark suit, which only highlighted how soaking wet he was.
Oh, yeah.
But he did hold it together. He didn't flinch. He kept going. And everybody thought he looked ridiculous.
I mean, he's the consummate professional. We'll give him that. But everything in politics is about optics, and 100%. So much the level of meticulous detail that needs to go into an announcement like this, especially an announcement call for an election, which is going to run on the front page of every paper. It's going to run on every broadcast. That picture will be seen by millions and millions of people. The comms person who didn't look at the forecast.
Right?
I mean, talk about resignations.
And the crazy part is,
now.
if you've looked at the headlines today, everyone's okay, great. There's a UK election on July 4th, yada, yada. Everyone's talking about the rain.
Oh, yeah.
It stole the show. And that is definitely, that person needs to buy beers for the office. I think that's the rule.
Totally.
The person that forgot the tent.
It was not ideal. As far as like images that you want to kick off your campaign, this has to go down as one of the worst.
One of the
worst.
Oh my God. I'm going to start including it in my teaching.
I think we should. I mean, I think this is one for the books. I'm going to put it in my media training materials now.
It really was. Yeah, you actually should. We're talking today with Christy Clark, who's the former, I was going to say prime minister, maybe one day, premier of British Columbia. And this is part of our series, our ongoing series about women who have led provinces. We've had the sitting premier of Alberta. We have more former premiers coming up. This is an important topic for us. Why? Why is it important for you?
Well, I thought what has been really interesting in both the conversations that we've already had and I think ones that we will have is we're finding this common theme around leadership and especially women leaders who are taking over parties at a time when the parties are either in the dumps, like the numbers are bad, things are looking sour. And it's like, that's the time that these parties get turned over to a woman to lead. And in some cases, it's, it has worked out. And in other cases, it hasn't. We obviously interviewed Kim Campbell a couple of months back, and she took over a party that was, low digits in the polls, didn't have enough time to turn it around before an election. And I think, I think that there's an interesting conversation to be had around, women who put their name on the ballot, who jump into the ring. It's hard enough to do that for so many reasons, but also to get the chance seemingly when it's like when the prospects look poor is kind of an odd trend. You think?
It is an odd trend. You can hear me typing because I was trying to look up how many women there have been that have been premier in this country. And we talked about it on Danielle Smith's episode. I think it was 14 total in Canada's history.
Yeah. And like how many people could even name like
I probably
a handful of them?
All of them. Well, I probably could.
You could. But I mean.
Rita Johnson being the first one from the province of British Columbia.
In general, though.
BC's killing it. Yeah, in general, probably not a lot.
Probably not a lot.
But it, as somebody that's like loves these political facts, for me, when we started thinking about this series, I looked it up and I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. And we've seen such a growth in other areas when it comes to women's leadership roles in politics and getting elected, even federally, to the House of Commons. And yet these extreme leadership roles, so prime minister, premier, are still lacking astronomically.
So much.
So I think that we don't do enough looking at that, like why the leadership positions are still so vacant by women.
Well, it mimics the leadership positions, the C-suite. It mimics what's happening across the country. With it's like 5% of the C-suite is occupied by women.
That's crazy.
In Fortune 500 companies. So it really does mimic what happens in other leadership positions. But it's fascinating to talk to these women who have made the decision to do this. They are powerhouses. They have so much to offer. You guys, you're going to love these conversations. They have been truly moving. They have been my favorite so far. Yeah, and me too. I can't wait for all of our listeners to get to hear them.
Yeah, and let us know what you think. But we are going to be right back with the former premier of British Columbia, Christy Clark. As we continue our series of women who have led provinces, it is my great joy to introduce the former premier of my home province of British Columbia, Christy Clark. While she's held the title of premier, her political career certainly didn't start there. In 1996, she was elected to the BC legislature, and in 2004, she left to spend time with her son. She later went on to run for the MPA nomination for the mayor of Vancouver, won the leadership race of the BC Liberals in 2011, and went on to sit as premier of the province from 2011 until 2017, when the NDP took over as government after forming a coalition. Of note, she was the second woman in all of Canadian history to have a baby while sitting in cabinet. Let's talk to her about it. Hi, Christy. Nice
Hi.
to see you.
Nice to see you too, Rachel. Your comment you ended with about having a baby in cabinet, it
Yeah.
always makes me think people will imagine that I delivered the baby on the cabinet table or something.
That's so funny because when I wrote that line, it actually did sound like you had the baby in cabinet and I had to revise it. That's hilarious.
And then you're left thinking, okay, I kind of understand why more women haven't done that.
Right? Exactly. We had Karina Gould and Bowen Ma on last week for Mother's Day, talking about their experience having kids in politics. I mean, I remember being a young British Columbian and hearing about you stepping away from the legislature after having your son. What maybe you can tell us a little bit about your journey in politics and how having a child shaped part of that journey.
Well, I guess where I would start with that is just to say, I remember I only took a month off. Like I didn't take,
Oh.
full 6 months. My personal view is that I think we make way too big a deal out of, oh my God, she's got a baby and she's in government. Because women all over the world and in Canada, in BC, do that all the time. They have a baby. And guess what? They work.
Yeah.
Wow. And then I get fed up with politicians who complain, "Oh, I couldn't take the whole year off." Well, you know what? It's great that we have support in Canada for women to take a full year off, but politics really, I think, is a job where you're representing people, and it's not something where you can be replaced for a year. And that's really the difference, right? If you're having a baby, if you had a baby and you're in a job where your employer can find some replacement for you, that's when it works and it should work. But if your employer can't, maybe because you are the employer, or maybe because the citizens are your employer and you can't be replaced, like who does that job when you're not there? And that's, I think, the big difference. And I don't have a ton of, kind of time to listen to all this whining and complaining about women in the legislature who have babies because, we should make sure we structure the legislature so that it works for women who have babies, the women who are there, can't, so you're not deterred from holding public office because you want to have a baby. But I just don't think it's a huge deal. Wow.
Yeah,
I
I love it.
I had to go back to work after a month. A lot of women do that.
Yeah. But later on you left when Hamish was how old? Like 3?
No, I didn't leave politics. Oh, I guess that you're right. So I left, he was born in 201. I left in 205, so he was 4, I think.
4.
And then I came back when he was 10.
Yeah.
And I
Still young.
I served until he was like 17 or maybe he was 9 and so something like that. But yeah, all of his teenage years. So, maybe there's a lot of listeners who are thinking, wow, I wish I could go to a job where I wasn't around much when my kids and it was in his teenage years.
It's
true. We
probably
both have young kids, but we always are listening to these stories of, we complain about, we had bedtime not so long ago and it was like a nightmare. Like it was like a melty nightmare. And then I hear stories of teenagehood and I'm like, I'm not sure. Maybe that sounds worse. I don't know.
You know what, Amanda? I'm joking. I did find that every year with Hamish got better. Like he got more interesting, more fun to be around. As he grew into, like he was difficult. Like he was just one of those kids who was just like bouncing off the walls all the time. But he actually, I thought I liked every year of his age better.
Oh, I love that.
I'm really glad to hear that.
And I know it's amazing when your kid is 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever, but they're pretty amazing when they're 15. Pretty interesting.
Cool.
We have something to look forward to.
Maybe. I have twins. Good grief. So I am curious. I was reading all about, I was going back into your career, and your trajectory in politics has not been a straight line, which I think is really interesting. And there's been really kind of those moments that obviously made headlines. And it got me thinking about headlines. And I was like, okay, Christy Clark, if you could put, you're like a press release. And if you could put, what is the headline of your tenure in politics? What would you say it is? Or what is the thing that you've been most proud of, or the thing that has really like the hallmark of your career in politics to date?
Okay. So this, this is going to be a terribly self-aggrandizing headline,
No,
right?
do it. Go for it.
You're not expecting it to be something that the actual newspaper would write. I would say, she uh s- created she created more jobs
Mm.
um
Mm,
than anyone in BC history,
mm,
which improved lives for everyone.
mm,
Which improved life for for British Columbians. That's what I would say. I mean, because that was my whole focus. Was I started out thinking about families first,
Mm.
and then I thought,
mhm,
well, how do however you define family, and there's lots of definitions for that, and just like you're thinking, well, what is the most important thing to make a family function that government can do to make a family function? It's
mhm,
not really interfering all the time.
mhm,
It's two things. One, to make it possible for families to have the money that they need by, creating good high paying jobs and lower taxes to be able to support their families and live the life that they choose for themselves. And the second, ensure, those jobs, the more there are, the more revenue there are for government to support the services that people depend on, like schools and hospitals, most importantly.
Mhm.
And to me, like, it's a pretty simple formula. And
mm.
that's really what we got focused on. And we were successful at it, Amanda. I mean, I feel proud of that.
You sure
Love
were.
that.
You sure were. Let's back up a little bit because we've asked this of other
Mhm.
former premiers. Were you always political? Like, did you wake up in the morning as a young child and think, I'm going to go into politics, I'm going to be the premier of this province? Or was
Mhm.
this something that just kind of happened by chance?
I never thought that. I never thought that.
No?
However, though, Rachel,
Mm.
I was very interested in politics from a very young age because I was interested in kind of, how people make the world better. And my dad had been a BC Liberal candidate, like when the
Mhm.
BC Liberals got 4% of the vote, 5% of the vote, because he was a school teacher and, he believed in it and he just decided he was going to run for office and hope he could win
Hmm.
even though it was hopeless cause and the 3 times he did it. We went, though, around our dinner table and talked politics all the time. I had 3 brothers and
Mm.
sisters, and it was just, we just like, I knew about it, and I never thought it was weird. Like, how you meet someone whose mom or dad is a priest or a rabbi, and you think, "Wow, that is so weird." But it's because, you probably didn't have a lot of people who were serving in positions in churches or synagogues in your
Hmm.
growing up. But
Yeah.
it's not weird. It's not weird. People do it.
I love
Amazing.
that.
So it's not like, at what point though did you decide? So it wasn't like little Christy, but at what point did you decide, I'm going to go for this? Like, I want to lead. This is, I mean, here you are. We talk to a lot of women in a lot of different facets of politics, but you make it to the top job, right? Like, you're premier
Mhm.
of the province. This is it. You make it to the pinnacle. At what point do you decide, I'm going to go for it? I want that job.
When the opportunity arises, like I think, we think of people's rise in whatever career they've got as very linear,
Yeah.
Mm.
right, vertical, right to the top. And I don't think certainly doesn't work that way. It didn't work that way for me. And I always am suspicious of politicians who seem to go about it that way. Like everything that they're doing is just like
Mm,
building for the next thing, building for the next thing.
mhm,
That was never my trajectory. I got into politics because Gordon Campbell, like I had been volunteering in politics because I used to
mhm,
work for candidates for free and make phone calls and stuff.
Mm.
And then Gordon Campbell, my brother happened to run into Gordon Campbell one day and said, "You should ask my sister to run." I was 29,
Really?
28. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
So
good.
Gordon phoned me and he said, "Do you want to run?" It was kind of a ratting. They thought they were going to lose. And so I thought about it. I said, okay. So I ran. And then we were in opposition for 5 years. And then I ran again in 2001, and we were in government, and he appointed me to as Deputy Premier Minister of Education. And then I quit and went into radio.
Mm-hmm.
And then Gordon resigns and in like 2010, and people start coming to me saying, nobody can win. Nobody who's running in the race right now, you can win. And you have to do this because somebody who can win has to save the province from the NDP. And I apologize to this, nonpartisan audience, but that's what they said. And, I mean, that is sort of
You're
what
just
happened.
stating the facts. It's
Yeah,
fine.
Well,
be as partisan as you
there's
want.
2 Democrats out there who have had someone go and say, you've got to keep the damn liberals out of office.
Right.
Totally.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I thought about it really hard, and I thought, well, I thought it's important for my son to see that when I was asked to do something very, very, very hard, and to be honest, in which the odds of winning were very, very, very low because we were so far behind, I thought it was important that he see me do that, take it on, if I thought it was something that was important. And I thought it was important he see women do these kinds of jobs too. And, I thought, well, if not me, who's going to do it?
Mhm.
Who's going to be able to win? And I did feel an obligation to enter public service again. So that's sort of how it happened.
So we've had Kim Campbell on our show. We had Kathleen Wynne as well, and both of them talked about this transition of power from Brian Mulroney to Kim Campbell, from Dalton McGuinty to Kathleen Wynne. Both had took over parties that were not doing so hot in the polls. I've found this term called glass cliff. So when Gordon Campbell left and you took over, it was described in the province, the newspaper in Vancouver, that you were taking over a glass cliff. Do you think that that's something that's typical of women in these leadership roles?
Maybe. I do think that the media tend to, sort of go, their standard is, well, if they're letting a woman do it, then it's probably a hopeless exercise. It's kind of like, and I remember when Kim Campbell was elected leader, it was kind of like, okay, that's an act of utter desperation, I mean, you have to go and find a woman because she's, and lots of people thought, well, maybe that'll work. We'll trick them, it's a woman there, but, gosh darn it. And I think that was for sure the case for me. Although, to be fair, I mean, we were way behind in the polls when Gordon left. I mean, people didn't think we were just going to lose because it was me. People thought we were going to lose because we were 22 points behind. We were in the, trash heap of history practically by then. So,
and that was their point, sort of, that they were taking over these parties where they were down in the polls, and it was kind of like, okay, well, over to you, maybe you could resurrect it. But was it in all of, in Kim's case, it didn't work out. In Kathleen's case, it did work out. In your case, it did work out. And you had the opportunity to govern for a long period of time. But there is this sort of feeling, at least they presented it to us and to our listeners, this idea that does it only get turned over to a woman when it's in bad shape? Like, are the men kind of like, maybe this isn't my time to try to run for it because, it looks like a lost leader anyways. What do you think about that? Do you think that's accurate? I mean, in your case, again, you ran a province for a number of years. You successfully did that, but do you have the sense across the country, because we just haven't had that many women in these leadership positions, that this is one of the reasons why women choose not to go for it, or just the conditions not in place for it?
I think the conditions are very tough for women to get in politics, but I think, I do think that I mean, and I talk to women all the time about running. I probably, Rachel, have asked you in fact, I have asked you to run for office before.
Will you knock on doors
Amanda,
for me?
Next.
You'll knock on doors?
Of course I will.
Oh, heard it here first.
So, and women
Rachel,
say,
I would knock on doors for you, and we are decidedly in different parties.
That's very nice. That means a lot.
I would, women often don't want to run for office, or they think they don't want to run for office. It's very, very hard sell because it feels like such an ugly business, and women like all the, all the feed. They don't like what shows up on their social media feed. So that's, I think, part of it. I think part of it is that the parties, when they're really down in the polls, are looking for something really different.
Yeah.
members, and that's not a bad thing. They're saying, okay, how do we present ourselves as something different? And so going to a radically, and seeing a woman in the front of the thing, actually, it's a noticeable change.
Yeah.
So I think that happens. But, when I think about it, um, in my experience, I had like a couple of 3 really strong male candidates running against me. It wasn't a lack of competition.
Right.
And Kevin Falcon was being actively supported by Gordon Campbell at the time too. So, I I think I don't have a great answer for that, but I don't think it's as simple as,
Yeah.
"Oh, we're desperate, let's find a woman to do it." I
Okay.
think it diminishes the women that win.
Yeah, me too. Oh yeah, for sure.
I want to talk about the 2013 election because for those that don't know, on March 7th, a couple of days before the election day, the front page of the newspaper in Vancouver, the headline was, "If this man kicked a dog, he'd still be premier," with Adrian Dix, who's an NDPer. He was the leader of the NDP, his face on there. Did you see that headline? And what did you think?
Well, I just thought, "Well, more of the same. They think he's gonna
Mm.
win." And,
Mm,
the thing about a campaign is you're never sure you're gonna win, and if you start being sure you're gonna win, that's a very bad sign. I mean, I know politicians out there today who just seem like they think they have it in the bag, and I just think,
right.
"Wow, that is the worst vibe to give off because people don't wanna vote for you, and your supporters behave in different ways too. Your candidates behave differently and work differently. So, I never I just was used to the media trashing me and writing me off, and, I just believed that what we were saying, like, our plan for the province was gonna was gonna resonate with people. And
Mhm.
then I also decided though too, you know what? If we lose, I will have done
Mm.
my very best, and I really did every day get up, and it's actually it was Dalton McGuinty who said this to me. He
Mm.
said, "Every time you get off the campaign bus, the entire weight of the campaign is on your shoulders.
Mm.
You carry this entire thing. So every time you get off that bus, be perfect. Be as
Wow.
great as you can possibly be." And I remembered that and did that every single day for the full 28 days. I just remembered I'm carrying this whole thing.
Wow.
So I have to be absolutely as good as I can possibly be. And it's only 28 days. I mean, and, 365 might have been harder to be perfect.
Yeah. And the next morning, were you surprised that you had won? Not only did you win, for context for our listeners, but you won a majority
Mm.
government
A
after.
bigger majority than my predecessor had.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Was that what was going through your head when you saw those election results?
Well, I mean, Rachel, you're going through the campaign, you see the polling results transform
Mhm.
over the time. Yeah, I mean, you're not completely out of the loop on that. I never wanted too much detail, but
Mm,
I knew we were in a pretty good position, but you never know in a democracy how
Mhm.
people are going to vote, and
right.
a couple of votes here and there, and we're seeing this today where there's a split vote.
Yeah.
More people are going to vote for the free enterprise parties than the NDP. But if there's 2 free enterprise parties, the NDPs can get elected. So you never know how things are gonna fall out at the end of the day. I never had a fixed expectation of how it was gonna go. I thought we were in pretty good shape, but what happened was though, that night, because it was nighttime,
Yeah.
when the polls closed and I'm sitting in the hotel room, the whole, group is downstairs at the Wall
Mhm.
Center Hotel downtown Vancouver, and I'm there with my son in my lap,
Mm.
and he's like 9 or 10, and it's 7 minutes or 6 or 7 minutes into the broadcast, and they're all humming and hawing and, "Oh, we can't call this election," and Hamish is super, super stressed out, right? Like, he's
Yeah.
and he says, "Mom, what did these results mean so far?" Because, NDP elected and leading, and Liberals, BC Liberals. And then Don Guy, who was our campaign kind of, eminence grise, said, he turns to Hamish, she goes, "Hamish, the results you're seeing are the results of the biggest, most expansive poll in the entire campaign,
Mhm.
and your mom is going to get 50 seats.
Aw.
I
And
love
Hamish,
that.
and I have this picture as a screensaver, Hamish on my lap, and he's just got his arm that moment, his arms around my neck. And I think he was crying. It was so excited. It was just a great moment. But it was 6 minutes in. So that's when I knew we'd won.
Wow.
Yeah.
We
So when
walked
you find out that you have this huge majority, like what is the predominant feeling? Is it relief? Is it like exhilaration? Like what is the feeling that you feel in that moment when you realize not only did we do it, but we did it so big?
You know, yes, it's exhilarating, I think, but you're so exhausted, right? You're
Yeah.
just so exhausted. More of it's just relief. There's a little bit of
Yeah.
astonishment because you just, it's kind of like, I can't believe this just happened. I can't believe this
Yeah.
is over. I can't believe, it's think, for maybe I felt a little bit of the same thing when Hamish was born. I don't know if you
Wow.
had those experiences when you had a baby, but you know, your baby's born and they put your baby on you and you're lying there with your baby and you're just feeling, I mean, there was more joy in having a baby than him winning an election, I have to admit, but it's just you're exhausted, you're
Yeah.
relieved,
Yeah.
you're relieved in the knowledge that he's so or she is fine and alive. And it's just kind of a stew of competing, but really beautiful and profound feelings. However, it's like a tenth of the baby. Think of all those things, but it's like a tenth of the baby.
But it is like a baby, like you grow
Yeah.
this thing, you
It
put
is
everything
kind of.
into it, you got a lot of people who are waiting for it to happen. Was it, would you say, and I don't want to put this, I don't want to make this up for you, but was it the biggest high of all highs in your career, winning that election?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it would have been for sure. It was the highest because it was such a surprise for everybody. We were 22 points. No one ever comes back from 22 points behind.
No, I know. Did you hear that, Trudeau Liberals?
I didn't say it.
There's
She
still
said it.
hope.
Okay, let's fast forward to 2017 because you had such a unique experience, and I have to ask you about this. In 2017, the election happened. I'm going to read the breakdown. There's 87 seats in the BC legislature. You need 44 for a majority. 43 were your seats, the BC Liberals. 41 the NDP, and 3 the Greens. You came on as premier until I think it was May, and then in July, the Greens and the NDP formed a coalition, and obviously then you were no longer premier. What
Mhm.
is that like?
Well, it's parliamentary democracy, right?
Mhm.
I mean, it's disappointing for sure. I mean, the way it unfolded was that the reason we lost the government was because one of our members for whom we had held a nomination and, said no one else could run kind of,
Mm,
um, for him to be able to run, quit our side to go sit as the speaker. So we were short of one person, and therefore
Right.
we couldn't hold the majority. And it's always a mystery why people, kind of cross the floor to the other party. It's never
Mhm.
really disclosed what happens or how it happens. So we went to sit as speaker, and that felt like, I mean, to my caucus, boy, people were mad and
Oh
betrayed.
God, yeah.
I mean, people just really, but I think I had had enough experience with politics by that point, and, enough stuff had happened in my life that I just don't depend on everyone to have strength of character.
mm,
And a lot of, people would be surprised at how much strength of character there is in most of the politicians that represent them. But there's
Mhm.
always a minority of people who just don't have it. And he was one of them. So it was a surprise that that happened. But, also, I knew at the time that leading a caucus where the majority was so narrow is really not that fun.
mm,
It's just
Yeah.
not that fun. And because every day, if anybody wants to defeat the government on your own side, they can hold everybody else for ransom.
Right.
And, so in a way, better to have that, that unprincipled guy out than to have him in. But it did mean that we ended up not staying in government, and we got 4 years of John Horgan, which wasn't great.
mm. Yep.
If we could hold the political wand, which we can't, but wish we could, and wave it and give you a do-over, would that be your do-over? Or would you have another
Oh,
one?
no.
No, okay,
We didn't
tell us the do-over.
you
What would you
know, you
do
know,
over?
we didn't run a great campaign. We ran a good campaign. We didn't run a great campaign. So I think we might have done that differently. Um, and I think in terms of what we wanted to do, a lot of people have said this. I'm not the first, and we didn't do it because I think it was actually the wrong thing to do. We decided, because we were running such huge surpluses by the time I left, we turned the province from a kind of a have-not, deficit-ridden province into a huge surplus province.
Yep.
And we were always thinking about how to spend that money. And we had, you always have three choices. You can grow government, you can put $3 billion into making government bigger, which we didn't want to do. You could lower taxes, which means, you're also growing the economy because you're creating more economic opportunity, more economic growth for sure, and creating jobs. Or you can take the money and put it on the debt and leave a better future for your kids, very materially. And we chose the third. I think a lot of people say we should have just chosen the second. It was the easier choice. It was the less ethical choice, I thought, less principled choice. It was still a good choice. It was just the less principled one. And a lot of people have said that we probably should have taken that $3 billion and figured out how to spend it in tax cuts. But, you don't get do-overs, right? And,
I know.
at the end, I don't feel badly about trying to do really what was the right thing, because that debt that our governments have is going to mean that our kids probably won't have a functioning healthcare system. There'll be no way to pay for it.
Right.
I worry about that a lot.
Okay, we're getting short on time here, but I would be remiss if I didn't dive into BC politics with you, because
Rachel, the way you do the lead ups, it's just like,
am I getting you nervous?
what is
know.
gonna happen next?
I'm nervous
Oh.
too. I'm like, God, what is she gonna ask?
I'm so sorry. I'll just put the question out there. What the heck is going to happen on October 19th? What is happening with BC Liberals, now BC United? What's happening with the Conservatives? And mainly, do you believe these polls that the BC Conservatives are doing so well?
Yeah, I do believe them. I think that they're accurate for sure. I think, but polls change a lot. And when people get into a polling booth on there's 28 days is a long time for a lot of stuff to happen.
Yeah.
And what David Eby's going to do is spend that period exclusively attacking John Rustad. And, John was in my cabinet and he's a good man. But, one of the things we're putting together a party out of nothing in a very short period of time is that you don't have the infrastructure, and sometimes you don't get the candidates that are really,
right,
the ones you might have chosen if you'd had more time.
Yeah.
And so, there's always lots of rocks to uncover there. And I think, the David Eby will be very skilled at sort of driving down those conservative numbers. So as it stands, they're going to split the vote. And the NDP are going to get a big majority. If they come together, they will have a chance of succeeding. Now, I mean, it's not 100% chance, but they will have a chance that they currently don't have now. And Rachel, I'll tell you, whichever one of these two men gets in the way of a merger or some kind of joining forces coming together, known in history forever as a villain. And people will call it the Rustad effect or the Falcon effect. Whichever one of them gets blamed for not figuring it out is going to always have their last name used in uncomplimentary terms in political circles in BC.
So if you were leader, you would be forming that merger as we speak.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking to people all the time, and who are influential in this decision to try and help make it happen. But absolutely, if I was there. But you know what, though, I like the caucus that I led was a coalition of conservatives.
Exactly. That's
so
right.
we had them both in and some of them are federal liberals, some of them are federal conservatives. They fight each other like crazy in federal elections, but they come together. And so I was constantly managing that coalition. Of course, I would help bring it together now if I was there, because that's what I did.
Right.
or,
Exactly.
the 7 and a bit years I was premier.
Magically, you brought together.
It wasn't magic, Rachel. It was just hard, but it's the job, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have my big last question there. Did that sound like terrifying
Dun, dun,
also?
dun.
We want to know, I know our listeners want to know, will you ever throw your name in the ring federally?
Is there a job opening, Amanda?
Yes.
Where?
Ooh.
Well,
There isn't.
well, isn't there?
Well, Justin Trudeau is going to run in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Pierre Poilievre is going to run in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
So both jobs are taken. And I think Jagmeet's running, not that that's an option for
Yeah.
me.
Which job would you want? I think people want to know that too.
Oh, that's also another tricky question for me.
It is, right?
Well, it's really tough, because a lot of people think I'm a federal liberal because I've been a federal liberal, most of my life. I was a member of the Federal Liberal Party. But I also governed very much like a conservative because I was
Right.
concerned about lower taxes and growing economy. But I actually think that both parties should be concerned about that. I don't think you have to be a conservative to be concerned about creating jobs and economic growth. It's kind of a matter of, what method do you choose to get there? It's no secret, I'm not happy with the way Justin has run the country. I just think we got so much going on in Canada. We've got the best educated population in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible public education, post and secondary education system. We have resources coming out our ears, natural resources that the world desperately needs. We have the rule of law, we're a democracy, like you name it, go down the list. There isn't much that Canada doesn't have. We have access to the US market through, CUSMA. So, why are we shrinking? Why is our standard of living falling faster than almost anybody else in the OECD?
Yeah.
Why is there an outmigration of 6,000 people from British Columbia, the first time that's happened net since 2012? Why are we, all of these questions, that is not, in my view, the way a liberal governs. It's not the way that Jean Chrétien governed or Paul Martin. It's not the way either conservatives or liberals govern. And so at this moment, what I'm concerned about is having a prime minister who cares about growing our economy so families can support themselves and we can pay for healthcare and education. Like, it's as simple as that at this point. You kind of at some point stop thinking about, well, what color t-shirt am I wearing?
Right.
I'm really worried about the future of the country. And we have to get focused on the hard stuff of attracting investment, creating jobs, improving productivity, and raising wages for people in Canada, because our kids, it's in my province, and this is true in some other provinces where there's an out-migration, those kids are choosing not to build their futures here.
Right.
They're choosing to raise their children somewhere else. They're choosing to make all their money and pay all their taxes somewhere else. And then if you're British Columbian, they're going to come back when they're old.
I did that. Yep.
Well, you're not old, Rachel, but and need our services. So, something's wrong in Canada, and there's no reason we can't fix it because we have tons and tons of assets.
Yep. Just
So
send me
I'm still an optimist, right? I'm still an optimist. I think if this is a short-term problem, so whoever's going to fix it, I'm with them.
Send me a Christy Clark for PM t-shirt and I will sport it. One day, I'm waiting.
It might be blue and red, you never know.
You're such a good coalition builder that maybe it'll happen.
There's a lot of women who listen to this podcast who would definitely concur that a t-shirt of multicolors would be a helpful proposition right now. It's so sad that we have to say goodbye to you already because, we have about 1,000 questions left. You're such a fun guest and you have so much to share. I think that you may have also maybe put it out there that we could see your name on a federal ballot. I'm just gonna say that, like the next headline. We're just gonna put it out
manifesting.
there. But we'd love to have you back again so that we can ask more of what we didn't get to today. We want to thank our guest, Christy Clark, for joining us, and a big thank you to all of you for tuning in. We'll speak to you soon. Thanks again, Christy.